guess some of you are wondering, hey, it's been almost a year. Where are them reviews, Brian? You gonna do the reviews? What's the holdup? Well, there's a good reason why I've been stalling all this time. A good reason. Beyond the Black Rainbow is a 2010 Canadian sci-fi thriller horror movie from director Panos Cosmatos. Posmo. I'm gonna call him Cosmo Posmo. The plot concerns this young woman named Elena who has telekinetic powers, and she's being held captive in this new agey research facility where another character named Barry, who's taken over the institute, has very nefarious purposes, as we learn pretty early into the movie, and he's holding her captive basically. And the movie starts off with this industrial film from the mid-60s from the scientist or researcher who started the facility, and he has very lofty, new agey ideas, and things take a turn for the worse. And the movie is set in 1983, the year of Reagan's Star Wars and the invasion of Grenada, and Taco's cover version of Puttin' on the Ritz. There are many different themes throughout the movie, such as the loss of innocence, ego and jealousy overtaking, not being able to let go of the past. This is one of those movies where the filmmaking really overtakes the plot or the storytelling, which, you have to have really good visuals and sound design if you want to get away with that. In short, I think this movie was successful. I was engaged. I think that, if you're more a plot character driven movie watcher, then you may want to skip this, but it kept me engaged less for the fate of the characters and more to just see where it was going, because it starts off real slow, very deliberate pace, very slow, a lot of dialogue kind of at this volume. This is one of those movies that I would put into the category of the last 10 years where there's this pulsating 80s Giorgio Moroder / Tangerine Dream kind of 80s throwback soundtrack, and very slick visuals. And that style of filmmaking also invites the viewer to watch it a few more times so you can kind of pick up on the Easter eggs or little things that you didn't notice the first time around. All the reviews are 1 star, 5 star. It was so boring. Let me just save everyone and tell you to put it at 2 times the speed.
You could have just told the movie in half an hour.
Or 5 stars of this is the most exciting filmmaking in the last... I'm somewhere in the middle, but I actually really liked this. Although I have to admit, on my first viewing, I did actually say that out loud, oh boy, this is a snail's pace. We're a half hour into this. The first 45 minutes are an almost insurmountable amount of, like I said, whispery dialogue, where it doesn't even really matter what they're saying. Or extreme close-ups like this. The characters, especially the main character, is always at the side of the frame in a sort of like The Graduate way, where it's conveying this feeling of he's very isolated. You get it? And then it really gets going about 45 minutes or an hour into it, where we suddenly get this flashback sequence that's all shot in very stark black and white. This was the only point in the movie where what was on screen very specifically reminded me of something that it could have been influenced by, namely the movie Begotten. But then there's also lots of other kind of vague things that you could tie this to, maybe there's some 2001 going on. But I get the feeling that Cosmo has an equal love for, body horror stuff, like Basket Case, or a Cronenberg movie, as he does with popcorn action movies, like a Predator or something like that. But yeah, this is a great movie to turn out all the lights, turn off your phone, maybe a little something, and just be completely enveloped by it. There's almost no incidental music, which would potentially take you out. All the incidental music actually comes up in the last 15 minutes. There's a song by Venom called Angel Dust, when these characters are smoking angel dust. A little on the nose there. There's a song by Kicking Giant. I really loved the main actor. He was a very effective, very creepy villain. I could definitely see him teaming up with Posmo to do a remake of Hellraiser where he plays Pinhead. That would be good. It's ambiguous enough for you to kind of put in your own meanings, and there's different shots that you could, say, well, that means this or this means that. But basically, this director really likes to do stories about acid casualties and how hippie idealism went to shit in the 80s, He's the same guy who did Mandy, if that gets you to watch this movie, and there's definite filmmaking techniques or even specific shots where you're like, oh, this is what this guy likes to do. I'm thinking of a shot towards the end of this movie where the main character looks over at a different version of himself in the car, which, of course, was a very memorable moment in the movie Mandy when Nick Cage is just glaring and covered with blood and looks over at his deceased wife, or the ghost of his deceased wife. And there's some things that are left unanswered where you're kind of okay with it not being too over-explained, like why is the nurse looking after Elena such a mean person, or what's with that triangle thing that he uses to suppress her powers, or what's with that weird backwards-sounding phone message when he calls him, which I actually looked into. Turns out,
Slayer from the Space Knight.
It's a toy commercial from the 80s. A toy that came out, I think, in 1983. There's a lot of speculation as to why the movie's set in 1983. This, that, and the other happened in 1983. But then when you read an interview with Cosmo, he's just like, well, I used to go to this video store as a kid, and we started doing that in 1983, and I thought it would just kind of be funny. And honestly, I'll take that over Nicholas Winding Refn any day. I love that transparency of like, it's cool, I don't know, it's kind of funny, whatever. Over Nicholas Winding Refn and William Friedkin sitting there on a cross table and Refn going, yes, my movie, Only God Forgives, it was a masterpiece.
Oh, I'm like you. I have no regrets about Only God Forgives. I think it's a masterpiece, and it is. I just didn't make it very expensive.
Is there a doctor in the house? We need to get a medic.
As far as negatives go, because I liked this movie and I was haunted by it long after and just needed to get answers. Spoilers, in the last 15 minutes or so or less, we're suddenly abruptly introduced to two characters in the woods who are like, oh, well, they're going to get murdered immediately. And they are, and there's like a little bit of inane dialogue, and then they both have grisly deaths, and you're like, what was the point of that? Because, I mean, we already know Elena's in danger and trying to escape this guy, so what was the point of that? It's also easy to say that, hey, the ending's a little underwhelming. I think this is one of those movies where I don't think anyone's ever going to be satisfied with the ending. It works well enough, and I do kind of like how abruptly it cuts off. Just kidding! As far as what the title refers to, Beyond the Black Rainbow, to me it's this kind of like unattainable, intangible thing, the same thing that the research has been searching for all this time, and I guess with the color black it means it's kind of like on the dark side, but it's this idealist thing that's never fully realized. It's this intangible thing. It's this thing that can't be put into words and effectively doesn't exist and ends up being a corrupting influence. And so, who to recommend this one to? It's tough to say because it would work as kind of like a midnight movie or like just smoke some weed with your friends and throw it on. It's cool. But it just takes its time in the first half so much that it's really more of a movie that you just watch on your own under the covers, hoping no one else knows that you're watching this weird shit. I would recommend it if you liked Mandy. Same director, again, Mandy. Neon Demon. Ex Machina probably would be an apt comparison. This may be a celebrated cult movie years from now. Who knows? I hope so. But, man, I'll take this over Stranger Things, that's for sure. Alright. We established that. Good. Hey, guys. Hopefully it won't be another year until I put out another review. But who can say, really? But I will tell you this. stay sexy.